All right, let's talk about data warehouses. For decades, the rules have been pretty clear. But in today's world of super connected, complex data, some of those old rules, well, they just don't apply anymore. Today, we're diving into a totally different kind of warehouse, one built specifically for the flexible, kind of messy world of XML. We're going to break down why you'd even need one, how you'd go about designing it, and this is the really cool part, how it can become a living, active system that pretty much takes care of itself. Look, we all know and love our relational warehouses. They're solid, structured, and they get the job done for decision support. But let's be real, a lot of the data we're dealing with now is, well, it's messy. It's emails, it's web data, it's complex reports. It's stuff that just refuses to fit into a nice, neat grid. And that's exactly where we need to start thinking differently. So before we can even dream of building a warehouse for XML, we have to get on the same page about what it is. And I mean, really understand it. Because it's not just some other data format. It represents a fundamental shift in how we think about data structure compared to the tables we're all used to. And the difference is pretty huge when you see it side by side. On one hand, you've got the relational world we know so well. Structured, rigid schemas, absolutely perfect for predictable transactions. But on the other hand, you have XML. It's semi-structured. Think less like a spreadsheet and way more like a family tree. It's got this flexible, hierarchical thing going on that has made it the absolute standard for exchanging complex information on the web. So what does this all boil down to? Well, XML is practically built for complexity and change. That tree-like structure is perfect for information that's nested inside other information. Its schema can evolve without you having to tear everything down and start over. And maybe best of all, the tags themselves describe the data, giving it context right out of the box. It's what makes it so incredibly powerful. That is the million-dollar question, right? You've already got this massive, powerful, optimized relational warehouse. Why not just, cram the XML in there? Well, as a lot of folks have found out the hard way, trying to force that flexible, tree-shaped peg into a rigid square hole, it creates some major headaches. And here's where the wheels really start to fall off. Traditional warehouses live and die by their predictable, rigid schema. The moment you introduce flexible XML, that model just kind of breaks. Suddenly adding a new piece of information becomes a huge, expensive project. And trying to query that deeply nested data, you end up writing these monster queries that are a total nightmare to design, let alone maintain. Okay, so it's pretty clear a dedicated solution is the way to go. The good news is, there's a modern design methodology for this that completely flips the old approach on its head. See, instead of starting with the technology, it starts with a simple question. What are we actually trying to achieve? The whole process kicks off not with database tables, but with people and goals. First, at the requirement level, you figure out what the business actually needs to analyze. What questions do they want to answer? Only then do you move to the conceptual level, where you build an abstract model of those needs. And finally, at the logical level, you translate that conceptual model into a real, practical XML schema for the warehouse. It's goals first, tech second. Now, at the very heart of this conceptual model is something called the X-Fact repository. The easiest way to think about it is as the central library of your warehouse. This is where you store the most essential facts and figures, the what happened, that you've pulled from all your source documents, all based on those business goals we just talked about. But facts alone are pretty useless without context, right? And that's where virtual dimensions, or VDIMs, come into play. If the X-Fact repository holds the what, like a sale amount, the VDIMs give you the who, where, and when. They're the different analytical lenses, like by region or by product line, that let you actually slice, dice, and make sense of all that data. So we have this elegant warehouse designed perfectly for complex documents. That's great. But what if we could push it even further? What if, instead of being a static place where we just dump data, the warehouse could actually build and maintain itself? What if it could be active? Yeah, an active content warehouse is a genuine game changer. This is a system that doesn't just sit around waiting for some manual ETL process to feed it. It uses web services like its own personal arms and legs to go out into the world, find relevant information, enrich it, and keep itself constantly up to date. It becomes a living, breathing repository of knowledge. So how on earth does that actually work? Well, web services are the engine driving the whole thing. They handle everything. You've got acquisition services that go out and gather new documents, enrichment services that add value by automatically classifying content, exploitation services that give users powerful ways to query it, and administration services that manage the entire system. It's the whole shebang. The real magic behind all of this is a technology called active XML. Just imagine an XML document that isn't just a static chunk of data, but one that actually has web service calls embedded right inside it. This means the document itself knows how to go out and refresh its own content. For example, a document about a stock portfolio could have a service call that automatically fetches the latest price. The data and the action are literally fused together. So let's do a super quick recap of the big takeaways here. First, XML's tree-like structure is a totally different beast from relational tables. Second, trying to shove that data into a traditional warehouse is just asking for trouble. Third, the right way to design an XML document warehouse is to start with business goals, not technology. And finally, the future of this space isn't just about storage, it's about dynamic, self-maintaining systems powered by things like active XML and web services. And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. In a world where our data is only getting more complex, more unstructured, and more connected by the day, just storing it isn't going to cut it anymore. So the real question you have to ask is your analytics infrastructure evolving to handle this new reality, or is it slowly turning into a museum piece? Something to think about, for sure. Hey, if you found this deep dive helpful, do us a favor and hit that like button, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe for more explainers just like this one. Thanks for watching.